We meet January 2nd, and that's a club assembly. And we have a speaker today, Miss Deborah Owdom, and her topic is Seniors Against Investment Fraud. And I welcome you to take over up here.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Hold on, just a second. We'll get everybody, we'll get all the problems solved. She's ready to start. Okay, everybody got everything you need? We're up.
Okay. My name is Deborah Owdom, and I am actually the project director for RSVP of San Mateo and Northern Santa Clara counties. Has anyone heard of RSVP?
Yes.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Usually when I go out and nobody is.
Unless it's a different, no. It's a different RSVP, I know. It's the one for helping seniors and the low for in their homes? No.
Are you a real estate agent?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a different RSVP.
Come on.
The RSVP that I manage in San Mateo and Northern Santa Clara County is a program of the federal government. How many here have heard of AmeriCorps?
Yeah.
Yes, AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is celebrating its 20th anniversary. AmeriCorps started during the Clinton administration. RSVP has been around for over 40 years. We are authorized by Congress, funded by the federal government, locally sponsored by Mills Peninsula Health Services. So they get the grant from the federal government. I am employed by Mills Peninsula to manage the grant. And what RSVP is volunteer recruitment and referral for older adults. So I work with nonprofits. That's my main hat. That's what I do. Well, back in 2002, I was at a conference put on by then State Senator Jackie Spear, her Seniors on the Move conference. And there was a presentation from a gal from the state of California about the Seniors Against Investment Fraud program. They were just starting to launch this program. What they did was they contracted with local RSVP projects because we work with volunteers, we work with seniors, to recruit a core of seniors that would go out in the community and give the presentation that I'm about to give to you. So we had a contract with the state of California, through the then called the California Department of Corporations, to present the Seniors Against Investment Fraud program to any groups of older adults, churches, senior clubs, senior centers, wherever, to provide them with information on how they can protect themselves from becoming a victim of investment fraud. Now, elder abuse is the bigger umbrella. We're not talking about elder abuse per se. We're focusing in on investment fraud with this program. Well, in 2008, we all know what happened to the government, the state of California. So they were no longer contracting with RSVP programs to do this program. Well, we decided that because it's such an important topic, that I still go out and give the presentation. I don't promote that I do this, but when asked, I come out. The booklets that you have on your table, and I brought many, so feel free to take more, are hot off the presses. I have not even cracked open one myself. This is the brand new book that the state just produced. It used to be through the California Department of Corporations, now called the California Department of Business Oversight. So this is the booklet that we hope that older adults in our communities have and read and use to help protect themselves. This is the old book that I'm going to use today because I haven't cracked that one. But let me share with you. San Mateo County Times, 2012, June. Scamming Nation's Elderly. We had an article in here about an older couple that was scammed. For the past year, an 81-year-old couple, they were both 81, had been in the thralls of an international sweepstakes scam. The retired educators had a half a dozen college degrees between them. They were educated folks. But they fell victim, and it was discovered by their children several years later, and that's kind of common. Older Americans lose $2.9 billion a year to fraud, according to a study done by the National Committee for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. The number one victims of financial abuse and scams are seniors. Why?
Because, yeah, they're suffering from, many of them stages of dementia, and they're reduced clarity of thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or loneliness,
Pardon me?
loneliness and, yeah.
And isolate.
Loneliness, isolation. They're home. They don't work. They're home during the day.
And that's where the money is.
And yeah, exactly. And that's where the money is. Older adults have more money than their predecessors. Investment fraud scams come in many, many different types of forms. Telephone scams. They've gotten the phone calls, and why do they call at dinner time? Have you gotten phone calls?
Yeah. Because they know you're there.
Because they know you're there. Right, it's terrible. Through the mail.
You take the questions, sorry?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just have a conversation.
Okay, how in the world, in all these years, does that, shoot, that did my tongue, the people who do those mailings that say, oh, you just won $75,000 or $1 million?
Yeah, for scams.
Consumers' credit cards, not,
Publishers, clearinghouse.
publishers' credit cards. How do they stay in business?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't. I'm
They're
sorry.
not, they're not in
Anybody have an
They're
idea?
not what?
business,
They're not in
just stealing money.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, they just.
Yeah, but they actually award those,
Somebody.
they have to have, because you see the pictures of them, and their deal is, they want you to buy all the little figurines and all the magazines and all that stuff, so.
And that's where they get their money?
They don't interview, so I guess
Is that
somebody
where they get
does.
their money?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so what they do is, you know, it's a business, but, you know, I think it's right on the edge of, you know,
They stay out of jail, by somebody gets paid, maybe, okay, I'll buy that.
What's the problem? You're buying it.
Don't buy it.
Don't
Well, don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
The phone offers-
Said the wrong thing, said the wrong thing.
You get offers to invest in a new company. Stock options, insurance policies are good examples of possible investment fraud. Investment fraud through the mail consists of letters offering work opportunities, but only if you invest in the company. This kind of opportunity often appeals to seniors who are homebound. For the senior on fixed incomes would like to make a little bit more money. Pyramid schemes. Don't see that so much anymore, but the famous one. Right?
Still around.
Burning Man.
I'm with
Honestly.
Telemarketing fraud. This currently is the most costly form of fraud perpetrated on consumers. 10% of telemarketing operations are scams, and hence seniors must be very careful. Someone calls soliciting a donation for a charity. Very common this time of year. You need to figure out whether or not the charity is real. What they do, and they saw this after Katrina, they saw it, the Hurricane Katrina, they saw this again after 9/11, that the fake charities come out. And what they'll do is they'll change the name slightly. Cancer Society of the United States. Real or fake?
Fake.
Because it is the American Cancer Society.
Oh,
They'll change that a little bit. The best thing that what they advise older adults to do is to make a list of the charities that they want to contribute to and stick to that. There is, how many of you are on the internet? Okay, you can go to guidestar.org and look up a charity to find out whether or not it is legitimate, whether or not they are registered with the federal government as a 501c3. GuideStar lists national charities from all over the country. Wonderful. The person on the phone offers to sell you something, but you must act now because it's a limited offer. Well, did you really need it? You gotta ask yourself. If you don't need it, you don't need to act now. Okay, you can act tomorrow or whatever. The impersonator of a policeman or other official tells you that they need your help to catch a criminal. They ask you to withdraw money from the bank to give to them. People, I mean, let's go back.
So now you're getting into,
6 college degrees between them,
my father did that.
and they still got scammed. You know,
so now you're getting into direct fraud, but most of them aren't that open, right?
I tell you what, they
Go
are-
down to your bank and get $5,000 to show good faith, you mean that kind of thing?
yeah, they're very cagey.
Yeah.
Pigeon bra.
Vision.
There's a video that kind of goes with this presentation, and it talks, there's a gentleman on the video who doesn't have the courage to show his face, but he's a convicted felon. And what he talks about is when a perpetrator wants to get a hold of a senior, especially an isolated, lonely senior at home, they start making the phone calls, and they become their friend.
Yes.
They find out what political affiliation they are with. And guess what? They're the same one. They find out what's their favorite football team, what's their favorite, where did they go to college, you know, what's their religion, what kind of church do they go to, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And they become the friend. And the next thing you know, they're hitting them up for things.
Can I ask,
How many of you, yes?
are most of these, majority of them, are they phone related?
No, not all of them are telephone related. Telephone is the most common, because they're gonna become your friend and then they're gonna say, and now I wanna come over. So then it's a face-to-face thing. There's been, and they've seen it here in this area, I think, there's been a couple of cases in Belmont where, have you heard they call and say, Grandma, I'm in
Oh,
Yeah.
another country and I, you know, got myself into some trouble and I need,
Yeah,
you know, $5,000 to da-da-da, can you know,
wire it to you.
and Grandma will go, oh, Timmy? Yes, this is Timmy, you know. They know how to do that. It's just, it starts on the phone most of the time, and a lonely older adult, if they get a phone call, I mean, my mother would talk to a tree if the tree would talk back to her. You know, she's lonely, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it starts on the phone, through the mail also. How many of you know your mail carrier? Pretty good. It's a good idea to know your mail carrier. Yes, sir.
This time of year, there's a scam I was reading about it. Microsoft sent out a warning, and I've had calls. People will call and say they're from Microsoft, and there's a problem with your computer, and they need to look at your computer and fix it.
Yes, I've heard that.
Microsoft never calls,
No.
and the people who do that, and try to put viruses on your computer to steal all your information and bank accounts and stuff.
They even got fax about that, we're on our way over to your
Yeah.
house, you know?
Really? I've gotten emails at my work email address, I work for Mills Peninsula, from my bank, supposedly, and the horse and the carriage is there, you know who I bank with. Very legitimate, telling me that I needed to respond to them, you know, they're looking for an update to my account or something, I don't know, something. I mean, they wouldn't do that. But not everybody realizes that, and people respond to them, and it's quite dangerous.
Print that out and take it to your bank, by the way.
Huh?
Print that out and take it to your bank.
Yeah,
Yeah, you should.
yeah, you should print it out and take it, because the banks need to know
Yeah.
that this is going on.
Done that a couple times, I get that.
They couldn't care
The reason I asked if you know your bank carrier,
Take it to.
if you get mail that you think is a scam, you know, you've won the sweepstakes or whatever it is, you should turn that over to your mail carrier, who should take it and turn it over to the U.S. Postal Service, because they have their own Department of Fraud and such. The knock on the door for, I've not heard of this occurring locally, but they talk about it. The knock on the door from someone who's pretending to be a contractor, who says, you know, I was just doing a job around the corner, I have this extra supplies, I noticed that your roof drains or your downspouts, you know, I'd like to do some work for you. Well, no, if you don't need the work, don't, you know, and make sure.
If I may, I'll tell you, first, one of my jobs in the early years, you have a driveway that's all torn up. So you hire a contractor, he comes in, he replaces your driveway. Now the neighbor looks and says, oh, mine's in bad shape too. And he says, well, I'll be glad to do yours tomorrow, and here's the price. And he starts down the block. Well, about halfway, every day he's bringing my company a check or cash for the concrete. Well, after he's done a couple, and he gets used to the system with the company, the next time he says, I'll have the cash on the job. The homeowner's going to give it to me in the morning, and we're only taking cash. The truck gets there, and he isn't there, but the crew's there, so they decide they'll pour the concrete anyway. Okay, now, he never shows up, never pays the bill, and I have to go out and explain to the homeowner that even though you paid the contractor, you didn't pay for the concrete, and I have to give you 48 hours to pay me, or I put a lien on your home. And I always showed up at 6 o'clock at night and got my rear end royally chewed, and then said, no, you must listen. I'm being polite, I'm telling you what the law is. Please check with anyone. I'm just trying to tell you that you got a new driveway, but the concrete wasn't paid for, and I have a perfectly legal right, my company does, to do this. By the next day, they're thanking me for coming out and being so polite about it while they're cussing me out. And I'm saying, totally understand, I feel the same way.
So they pay twice.
So they pay twice.
Yeah, sounds like a scam.
Yeah.
Was it a nice job?
I always do a good job, they just don't pay for the concrete, and then they're gone.
Wow.
Internet scams, I just mentioned the one about the bank. Internet scams are the fastest growing scams because they can reach a large group of people with very little effort. And the problem with the internet scams is it's very hard to trace where they came from. Vacation scams are very common on the internet. Since the advent of the internet, people are able to purchase products online. However, sometimes the product is purposefully misrepresented on the internet, and the client ends up with an unusable good with no recourse. Sometimes they never even arrive if you purchase things on the internet. The door-to-door thing, product sales, asking for donations. knock, 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 you open your door, they come in and you're talking to them. Well, little do you know that they are distracting you while their colleague is going through the back door and then going in and finding where you have your things. So very, very difficult. And then through the media, newspaper flyers and television and radio. Newspapers and such, they're not screaming to anybody can place an ad. They just want the advertising income. They don't know if it's legitimate or not. So just because they've placed an ad on in the newspaper or you hear about them on the radio, that still does not mean that they're legitimate. So what can you do about it? The California Department of Corporations has an 800 number that they ask people to call before making any investment. On the back, it's a toll-free number, and I'm told that you actually talk to a person.
Wow.
And what we tell older adults is before you make any financial decision, first of all, have someone that you trust that you can speak with face to face. Whether it be, if you don't trust your children, that's fine. Children are often the perpetrators. They saw that quite a bit when people were losing their jobs and the economy turns out. The children then were turning to their parents. Homes got turned over and things like that. So if you don't trust your, maybe perhaps it's your priest, your rabbi, your best friend, your whatever, your employee, somebody. That you should always have somebody that you trust that you can speak to. And when you make an investment, always make sure that that person knows that that has occurred. Usually financial abuse is discovered upon the death of the victim, and the family member then goes, what happened? And really it's too late to recover anything. So, before you make any investments then, talk to somebody about it that you trust. Call the 800 number. They can tell you that this program is financed by fines that are levied against those who are licensed to sell products. A fine has been levied against them. That's what the funds are used for public education. They can tell you whether or not the person that you are doing business with is licensed in the state of California to do business. They might be licensed in another state. They'll also tell you whether or not there's been any complaints filed against that person. Please turn to page 23 of the book. You'll notice that it's perforated. It's meant to be torn out. I tell seniors when I go and do this, tear it out and go make copies, have a couple ready. When someone tries to sell you a product, before you make an investment, give this form to them and say, would you fill this out? If they hesitate in any way in filling out this form, that's a red flag. Maybe they're, because then you can use the information from this to then make a phone call to check out whether or not they're legitimate. The other thing in the book that I wanted to point out it's a new book, so I have to find it. I think it's after that. Yes, right after that is the resource pages. These are wonderful resources. It's federal and state, the Contractors Licensing Bureau, the Department of Business Oversight, Department of Insurance, Bureau of Real Estate, the Federal Trade Commission, the U.S. Internal Revenue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all here with phone numbers and websites that you can go to and check up on things before you make any kind of an investment. This is the resources that you can use to protect your funds. You worked hard for it. Don't let a scam take it away from you. And that's really all I have to say. Any questions? That was a quickie.
Because of the decline in the number of landlines,
Yeah,
like, we still have one in my house, for example, but
yeah.
the young people, like all my sons, have no landline.
They got rid of their landlines?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, we are getting so many not crank is the wrong word. Some of them, yeah, some are crank, but mostly are maybe legitimate sales, but it's just overwhelming. So we don't answer the phone unless, you know who it is and all that.
Right.
And we're thinking about yanking the landline after all these years. So
Wow.
what do you, where will the next, so when this is done, when the landline thing is really kaput in a couple of years, where do you think that the next wave of solicitation?
Well, cell phone numbers are now being
Oh, yeah.
released.
I did.
I'm getting sales calls on my cell phone
All the time.
now.
But it-
How many of you check your credit scores? Okay, there's 3 companies that do it, and you're allowed 1 per year for free. Well, go to this company, and then in the next quarter, go to this company, and in the next quarter, go to this company, or every 4 months, rather, so that you have an ongoing look at your credit scores.
You can get the report too, not just the score.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the
The full
report.
report.
Yes, I'm sorry, you're right. One quick story before I close. I was subpoenaed several years ago
Oh,
to testify on behalf of this gentleman, 71-year-old Norman Rusi from San Mateo, who was scammed out of, I think, $500,000.
Whoa.
Norman is developmentally disabled. His mother passed away and left Norman a very, very wealthy man. The county went in and tried to conserve him. And Norman had the wherewithal. He was developmentally disabled, but smart enough. He got a lawyer, and the lawyer fought off the conservatorship. Well, then the lawyer had someone in his office who remembered Norman, who all of a sudden started going to church with Norman. He became Norman's friend. He became Norman's financial advisor, to the point where Norman supposedly, I heard, paid for this man's children to go to college. Norman never recovered his money. The county did indeed have to go in and conserve him. Very sad story.
Did the perpetrator go to jail?
Yes, the perpetrator did go to jail, yes. Melissa McCowan, the San Mateo County District Attorney, who takes these cases very serious. And she's quite successful. Yeah, yeah.
Deborah, we have to take a short break
Sure.
to close the meeting
Okay.
because I want some extra brochures for some of my friends, and I'm sure we have some questions. But if I could take over for just 3 minutes,
Sure.
and you actually get to eat your food while it's still slightly warm.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Jerry?